CEOs with the janitor that come together and have that common bond and can actually grow with each other.
Yeah.
That's crucial in your circle, in your friend group. So you have to check their hearts, you know what I mean? And it's important to set boundaries too within your friend group.
We both are married with young children. We hang out in that area,
That's
right?
true. Yeah. Different layers.
But the greatest equalizer is Jesus Christ.
Competition and comparison, like he's comparing his life, you know what I mean, to yours.
Yeah.
And he's trying to be in competition with you. That's never endorsed by the Lord.
When you're a believer and you have friends that has God as the foundation, you can have friends of multiple walks, different ambitions, different careers.
Just like Jesus and his 12 disciples, right? You know what I mean? He had those 12, but he had only 3 that were closer to him than the others. But only one that was the closest, which was John.
Yeah.
You cannot find that in the world.
Man, I'm telling you.
You're not going to find a CEO hanging out with the janitor or a VP of somewhere or an athlete hanging out with the counselor. You see what I mean?
Right.
In the world, it doesn't exist. And if it does, it's rare.
Hey yo, it's Violent Men Season 2, ears to hear and eyes to see.
Welcome to Violent Men, Ambassadors of Peace podcast. I'm your host, Kit, joined by my other host,
SP.
And Papa Bear.
And today we are bringing you podcast number 1 of season 2. We are ready to go, and we are ready for you to take the ride with us. So, to open up season 2, episode 1, we're going to bring you this episode called The Whole Crew Will Act Up. And basically, in season 1, we were talking in episode 3 about the best friend for men. Basically, we were encouraging you to get in friendship with somebody and stressing the importance of that. So just to build on that, we kind of want to circle back and kind of like have you look at how you're picking your friends. By now, you should have at least thought about it and maybe even acted on it. So for those of you who have friends, this is going to be one of those moments where you really think about what you're doing, because we have some examples in the Bible that are kind of important and kind of like can point you to certain things you should be looking for. So listen careful to what we're about to tell you, because there's some tragedies with friendships. Not everyone has your best interests. So what do y'all have to say? Anything? Takers.
Let Papa Bear. Go ahead.
Papa Bear.
Well,
As I take a sip of my LaCroix.
I really enjoyed you guys' points on this topic. So
Yeah.
I want you to, can you kick it off?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I had started my journey down this topic about understanding why it's important to live in community. And you see instance after instance in the Bible about God calling us to live in community, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a study that I stumbled upon as I was trying to prepare for this topic. There's a National Institute of Health, NIH.org. They did a study and they found out that living in community promotes self-growth and development.
Okay.
So not only is it scientific, it's godly.
Yeah.
So it's important that you live in community, because in multiplications there's power, and you can reach certain goals in groups better than you can individually. There's a saying, teams, as individuals win games, but teams defy the odds.
Yeah.
Accomplish the impossible. So
that's
important to have the right people around you, the right friends.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the first, topics that we're going to touch on was trustworthiness.
Yeah. We
got to have friends that are trusted. So you got to have close friends that you can grow together with and that are trusted. Well,
what's really interesting that what you said about that is like we went from convincing the audience to have one friend. Maybe some of you already have friends, which is really great. All of us have multiple friends. So we went from talking about you having one friend to then when you act in sort of like a tribe, like a tribal type of friendship, you have a bunch of people around you that can help you win, essentially. Yeah. So
However, your small circle of trusted friends is small.
Yeah.
High trust, high vulnerability, low trust, low vulnerability.
Yeah.
Right.
You cannot be vulnerable with everybody. You got to be careful who you trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Culturally, out in the culture defines it as 5 p.m. friends and 3 a.m. friends.
Okay. What does that mean?
The difference between that, right? So, we're talking how there's three types of friends, right? Mainly, and like Aristotle defined it as 3 types of friends are friends of pleasure, friends of utility, and then friends of virtue.
Yeah.
Friends of pleasure are guys you just like to hang out with.
Yeah.
So friends of utility are friends that's kind of transactional. They help you with certain deeds. You help them. They're good with cars, so they help you with your cars. You're good with computers, so you help them with this computer, and so on. But then friends of virtue are friends that are vested into your self development, and then we were talking before the filming that we could probably add a 4th one that encompasses all 4, and then as friends seek Jesus.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Seek Jesus. And then we were talking about different verses in the Bible where God specifically says that when 2 or 3 come together.
Yeah.
And then Psalms 133 talks how beautiful it is when God's people live together and in unity.
Oh man, yeah.
And then the 3rd verse, it talks about how God will bless that and bless their lives when you do that, when you seek Him in community. So your close friends are important.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know SP's got something to say, but I just want to squeeze something in real quick. So today I was actually having a conversation with a friend, and I was telling them how I thought about that word humanity, right? Mm-hmm. The word humanity, that means like all of creation, everybody on this earth. When you think about how, we're to love God by obeying His commandments and we're to love people, we're loving humanity, right? And whenever you break down that word humanity, the word hue is actually in the word humanity. So hue is actually different shades. So if you think about it, like your friendships and everything, when you go to love people, you're loving all kinds of people. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
No, but that's
it's an interesting point.
That's so neat because
we all look different.
You look at how the human race developed. The human race developed over the centuries.
Yeah.
They did it in tribes.
Yes, exactly.
You see, everywhere you look, even now, some of the historical places like Chichen Itza and in Peru and then in Egypt, there were communities that we wonder how they accomplished certain things, but they did it in communities.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
now, if don't go on a binge watching Ancient Apocalypse, because that'll put you on a different path. But hey, these people knew what they were doing. They worked as a team. We still don't know how those pyramids were built, but a team of somebody was doing it, or some things.
They did it in community and in tribes.
Absolutely. But hey, you actually touched on one thing I actually want to talk about, which is friends of virtue. Because one of the very things I wanted to talk about was actually friends that don't have your best interest.
Yeah.
Friends that don't have your best interest are the exact opposite of friends of virtue. So, I don't know about y'all, but I've had friends in my circle where the person comes into your circle, you think that all of you are trying to grow together, and then that person is actually secretly in your circle to try to become nosy. All they want is information about what you're doing. I had this one friend a while ago. This guy, we've known each other for a long time, and he said something to me that let me know how he actually felt, because he was telling all of our friends, oh, yeah, I've known you for a long time, blah, blah, blah. And because me and Kit are always in competition with one another, I'm glad to be here. And I was just like, I didn't know that we were actually in competition with one another, but thank you for telling me that.
Thank you for showing your
because
cards.
All the things that I thought the whole time about this friendship were actually true. He was actually looking at different aspects of how I was moving, and I wasn't anything spectacular, but in his brain, there was like this competition going on. Yeah. Mind you, I really didn't play sports, so I wasn't really aware of what was going on. But whenever he outright said what he thought, I was like, it gave me perspective, man. So it was interesting.
Yeah, to that, that when you figure that out about like him bringing up the competition aspect of it, like, competition and comparison. Like he's comparing his life, you know what I mean, to yours.
Yeah.
And he's trying to be in competition with you, but that's never endorsed by the Lord.
Man,
you know what I mean? Like, you're supposed to love your brother, not be your brother's opponent. You know what I'm saying? So that's very like that's crucial in your circle, in your friend group. So you have to check their hearts. You know what I mean? And it's important to set boundaries too within your friend group, because not all of them can be close to you.
Right.
Just like Jesus and his 12 disciples, right? You know what I mean? He had those 12, but he had only 3 that were closer to him than the others. But only one that was the closest, which was John, right?
Yeah.
So like Jesus had boundaries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he only kept a few close to him.
Yeah.
Because he knew. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Man.
Then you have Judah, everybody knows about Judah. Right?
John,
Judas. Let's be clear.
John 2:23 talks how Jesus didn't trust certain people.
Yeah.
2:23 it talks about how the people were starting to trust him because of the miracles he's done. It says, however, Jesus did not trust them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Jesus he knew who to trust and who not to trust.
Right.
He had, and it's important that Jesus can give us that discernment, because our humanity and our upbringing can kind of, can fog our vision, if you will.
Jade us.
Yeah, and what we think is trustworthy sometimes isn't.
Man, yeah, absolutely.
Just like sometimes your promoters have one less out of you than your critics. Sometimes somebody can criticize you genuinely and say, man, I want you to improve. Whereas your applauds, the people that applaud you actually want to see you fail and to give you false compliment.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's very important.
Man,
for your downfall.
But we are so uniquely made that even identical twins are different, have different DNA.
Man,
They have different genetic composite,
But
So we're so different that even if we try to duplicate each other's lives and progress, you cannot do it. So this whole theory of comparison, it's impossible.
Because what's funny about that is like God built us all differently. You know what I mean? Like it's important for us individually to find our identity and purpose of what He put us on this life. So,
Yeah.
like until you figure that out, you're always gonna have that comparison, and the comparison in you, and trying to be in competition, looking like what they're doing. But just because you read the Bible, from front to back, doesn't mean you're better than that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're rotten still. Stop.
Yeah. So,
Man, you know what's funny?
But and it's also important too that when we get our like close circle, it's important from the crowd, the audience, to know too that friendships don't last. You know what I mean?
Man,
it just depends on the season. Like there's some certain seasons where you might need to cut off, a certain friend, or just like say, you know what, I need to distance myself because I'm in a certain season, and what you're on right now, it's just not aligning. It's going to take me away from God a little bit, or what He has me.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that's really important.
Yeah, and like I think, man, you say the best stuff. Whenever you cut those people off, like intentionally, knowing that you're going for growth, it's almost like the person gets a lesson from you by knowing that they should probably be aware of what they're doing and probably do the same thing at some point, and cut off the people that are keeping them back. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what brings me to, before like just doing my research, I learned that, like God tests you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He tests your heart.
Yeah.
So just like prime example, Moses, Aaron, and what was that how you say? Miriam, yeah. So Aaron and Miriam comparison. They were comparing them to Moses, because they're like, Moses hears God, but they told themselves like, well, you're not the only one that hears God too.
Yeah.
Like, we hear Him too. You know what I mean? So they were a constant battle of comparing themselves to Moses. And so that was like a sickness, and they got sick over that, right?
Man.
And then Moses was the only person that can heal them, right? But what did God do? It's like, look, they are been like talking about you, like comparing, like you're not the only one that listens to God.
Yeah.
But you can heal them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just pray for them. And then look, if he prayed for them, they got healthy. Look, Moses could easily fall into that, but he was checking his heart. Before I can like give you more, I need to check your heart to see if you're on on the same like wavelength as Aaron and Miriam.
Yeah,
That's so good.
I mean? Yeah,
that is so good because you know how they say your talents and your gifts are not your gifts; they're for us to enjoy, not for you to enjoy.
yeah.
So when you try to compare yourself, you're limiting yourself from being a blessing from that person's gifts.
God, that's so good.
Right?
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, oh, you're being blessed. I'm supposed to be getting blessed. But that blessing that you're getting is for us.
Yeah.
It's for me.
Yeah.
And then my blessing that's maybe in another track, in another different scenario that you're not getting blessed in is for you to enjoy.
All right.
Yeah.
And now that's telling God, that's showing God that He can't trust you with another person's great gifts.
Man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's so good.
Man. I got some. I want to tell this story because I feel like this. It's just kind of funny because I know how I am, and I would say like for the most part, I'm not very competitive in friendships and stuff like that. However, whenever I play pickleball, everything always starts off really nice, and the moment someone hits that ball hard at me, it's like I go into killer mode, and I'm like, you know what? This was a friendly competition. Now it's like kill or be killed kind of thing. So, it's almost like whenever you compare that to your friendships, how many times have, you and your friends been going back and forth talking about, oh man, how's your job going? Oh yeah, I just got a raise, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, I just got 2 raises. Really? You just got 2 raises? Okay, that's cool. Well, I just had a daughter. Well, I'm having hella kids. I'm about to have 2 kids.
Yeah.
There's always a way to up it, in different circles. People are always going to find a way to up it, whether it's, I don't want to talk bad about church people because I think this applies to everybody, but in some way or another,
Pharisee mindset.
well, right, some way or another, we're always trying to figure out like, how to not compare ourselves to others, but somehow end up comparing ourselves to others because we may end up praying for something without knowing that we're jealous of someone and pray for something that someone else has.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
That's
good
the easiest way for you to miss out on
Does
your
that make
blessings.
sense?
No, that's good. You said that, and I what's helped me though when I'm trying to if I feel like I'm trying to up somebody or I need to check myself, just celebrate them, celebrate that person.
Man, yeah,
do it
yeah.
with love. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Because
yeah,
that would
yeah.
help you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what. Story
Well,
prime example. I'm
Well,
gonna
just
bring
real
up-
quick
Yeah.
before you go there, iron cannot sharpen iron if the blade that you're using to sharpen the other one it's trying to dull it.
Or plastic.
Right,
Or if
right.
it's
Or
made
it's
of plastic.
plastic, right.
Or
I'm
they're
sorry.
fake. Sorry, go ahead, BSP.
No, it's true because there's one instance where I had to check myself. I think I talked to you about it, but I'm going to explain it. So, we're in a group, you know what I mean? Look, we serve on a team, you know what I mean? And, one of the members, announced that, hey, these 2 people out here, they've been doing a good job. You know what I mean? We're going to give them more responsibilities. They're going to become leaders, right? They're going to be leads on the team. And then for me, I've been on the team, the security team. And I've been on it for a while, and I've gotten a lot of responsibility. You know what I mean? And I don't boast or anything like that, but when he said that, I kind of felt jealous or envious. Like, well, dang, you haven't announced me to the group,
Right.
You know what I mean? To be in the lead or anything. But I had to
Right.
check myself at that instant and be like, why are you feeling like that?
Right.
Look at what you already have. They gave you you're responsible for the important area where you're guarding the pastors and all
Right,
that.
right.
You have access, you have a great mentor.
Right.
Why do you need that title? You know what I mean?
You know,
you already
man.
have it.
Well,
but it's important, this is what I'm saying, it's important to have a good friend group because as soon as you bring it to God, because I had to bring it to God, why am I doing this? Then you have to tell somebody else.
Well,
and
listen
that's
to
when
this.
I came to you and I said, Am I tripping right
Yeah, I
now?
remember that. I remember that. And I think
Check
I told you
yourself.
this.
Yeah.
I think I told you this because there's a saying that I use quite a bit. Don't be so sure of what you want that you're not willing to take something better.
Right.
Man, yeah.
So you not coveting something was actually keeping you from something better.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
And I remember having that conversation.
Yeah.
I had to lay it out.
But-
I say, do you think that what you're doing is easily achievable?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And I had to check myself and I was like, you know what? And that's why I
I'm like-
celebrated. I celebrated them. I was like, look, it's good.
Man,
We
that's
need
good,
that,
bro.
We need them because the team needs more. We need to spread it around.
Because sometimes, you would have been limiting yourself if you would have been in the same situation and you would have been in that scenario and they would have been talking about you like that.
Yeah,
you actually would have traveled backwards,
right?
In my eyes.
Yeah.
But before, just y'all know, before this even started, like we were actually talking about Saul and David, and what SP just mentioned in his own personal life parallels perfectly with how Saul and David could have had a different relationship, because whenever David killed Goliath, all the people were chanting saying, David killed this amount of people, Saul killed this amount of people, and basically the people were saying David killed way more. And instead of Saul celebrating David's victory, I think he got that seed of jealousy planted that eventually turned into envy. So where you were at, man, like you got to give yourself a pat on the back because you didn't let that little seed of jealousy fester. You just and guys, that's a symbol of spiritual maturity. So if you in your own personal life are with friends who are bragging about what they do, it's okay to brag. Maybe tell them like, hey, ask if I'm dealing with pride, but also celebrate their victories with them because it's your hope that they would actually do the same thing for you. It's a reciprocal thing, right? Like to love each other, you kind of have to have this reciprocal type of call and response where you're talking, the other person's responding. It can't be one-sided to where one person's just always putting in and then you're not getting anything back because then you're just wasting your time.
Yeah. There's genetic gifts that like you taller than me, I'll always be shorter.
You sure about that?
Any way you slice it, right? There's something that you're genetically better at than I am.
Right.
Then there's skills that you've developed along the way that I don't have, but that I can develop if I celebrate you and learn from you. Then there's just flat out luck. You just got lucky.
Yeah.
Lucky. They call it luck, yeah.
And then there's favor. There's God's favor, blessings, right? Everything's achievable, and they can learn from each other if you celebrate each other other than genetics. And you really, nobody's equal there, but you can limit yourself from learning and growing by comparing and envying and coveting other people's stuff. Because I always had the outlook of somebody, let me see what I can learn from them. What are they doing? Why are they like that? And you develop some pretty beautiful relationships where, wow, this guy is really good at this. There's nothing I can do. I will never become that.
Right.
But let me be around him to be able to celebrate and enjoy his successes will be my successes.
Yeah.
Perfectly. Yeah, I wanted to read this scripture though.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Yeah. 2 Corinthians 10, verse 12. We do not dare to classify or compare ourselves with some who commend themselves. When they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves, they are not wise.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, that's so
How
good.
specific is that? That is really specific,
good,
actually.
huh?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So it's
That's so good.
Look, like I said before, comparison and competition that's never endorsed by the Lord. You love your brother. They're not your opponent. You're not in constant battles. Just like he's saying, you may have different gifts than I have or anything like that. Celebrate that. You know what I mean? Be the first person on the front line to celebrate their wins. That's what it's all about.
I have another scripture that kind of coincides with that. It's Ephesians 4:4-13. It's kind of long. It's a message version.
Papa Bear.
But
I'm ready.
it says, you were all called to travel on the same road in the same direction. So stay together, both outwardly and inwardly. You have one master, one faith, one baptism, one God, one Father of all, who rules over all, works through all, is present in all. Everything you are and think and do is permeated with oneness. But that doesn't mean that you should all look and speak and act the same.
Huh.
Wow.
Same beliefs, different perspectives.
So
That's good.
we're all on the same road. We're seeking the same thing, but we're not the same.
Yeah.
We're different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
God built each and one of us differently.
Y'all got me revved up. I got to get some scripture. So
Well, this is
no, I've got some. Yeah, go ahead.
what's beautiful is I don't think we planned this topic to go this route, did we?
No.
But what did we do?
But it's important to have that friend group. Though.
But no, absolutely. Yeah. But what we did together before we started this was ask God to guide us.
Yeah. So, okay, so we talked about, now that you have friends, now that you have friends that you may need to look out for. In Psalms 140, 1-4, it says, "O Lord, rescue me from evil people. Protect me from those who are violent, those who plot evil in their hearts and stir up trouble all day long. Their tongues sting like a snake. The venom of a viper drips from their lips. O Lord, keep me out of the hands of the wicked. Protect me from those who are violent, for they are plotting against me." Please, if you have friends like that, if you're in anguish like that, you just need to cut them off immediately.
Right. Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about this is it uses the word violent, right?
Yeah.
So what I think David wrote Psalms, right?
Yes.
Okay, so David wrote Psalms.
A lot of them, yeah.
When he's talking about protect me from these violent people, I'm thinking like, man, the people that are coming against him are violent, right? But then as violent men, we actively are participants in protecting our friends. So it's like one of the questions I wanted to pose is like, what kind of violent man am I? Do I have my friend's best interest? Do I celebrate them? Do I move in the same direction as them?
Yes.
Right.
Really, seriously, if y'all have friends at this point, or you're still looking for friends, everything builds. But you need to look at where you're at in your own friendship and see if you're actually moving in the same direction. See if you have your friend's best interest. See if you're actively trying to fight for your friend, and don't slander them.
I always look at what your common bond is. What's the common bond between you and that guy?
Yeah.
What do you guys always fall to? What do you always do together? Your common bond will give you an indication of what type of friendship it is.
Yeah. So here's what's interesting. In Psalm 141:5 in the NLT version, it says, "Let the godly strike me." This is like the correction where we're talking about the virtuous friend.
Yeah.
"Let the godly strike me. It will be a kindness. If they correct me, it is soothing medicine. Don't let me refuse it. But I pray constantly against the wicked and their deeds."
Wow.
So it's like, protect me from the violent serpents and snakes and all those people that he mentioned, but also like help me to take correction at the right time.
Right.
So, whenever we were talking, like, it's like whenever you're talking about the position with them where you're serving, and you had to acknowledge, like, to be happy for somebody else, it's almost like you built that aspect of virtuous friendship in yourself that says, I'm going to help build my friends. I'm going to celebrate my friends. So if y'all out there are actually dealing with, the inability to be a virtuous friend, I think you just need to find ways to celebrate your friends. If you can think about any good aspect of your friends, period, if it would be weird, just celebrate it to yourself. Like, thank God that they're so kind because I'm a jerk. Or thank God that they're so giving because they're teaching me how to not be stingy.
Right.
Thank God that they, are, speak kind words because I need to speak kind words myself. And eventually, those type of people that you're going in the same direction with, you're probably going to start emulating them. Like, there's certain aspects of SP that I've come to really appreciate. Like, I really like how introspective you are on certain scriptures that it's not, you don't go for like the big scriptures that everyone knows. You are able to break down scriptures that, like, I kind of like, I had to be reminded of. And I'm like very impressed by that. It actually made me want to get better myself about understanding things.
Yeah, that's what it is right there.
And when it comes to Papa Bear, you remind me that, like, outside of religion, there's other examples of virtuous people. They may not be in the same faith, but they're smart people. They're interesting to look at. Like, when you're quoting Aristotle, we can say a lot about Aristotle, but he's got some good stuff to hear, right?
God will even use the rocks.
Man, they'll cry out. If we don't worship him, the rocks will cry out.
So he'll use anybody. He'll use anything. Everything under the sun was created by him. So at any given point, all good things come from God.
So why not honor him with our friendships, y'all?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, why not? Choose your friends, go in the same direction, have virtuous friendships. Don't slander them, celebrate them.
Right.
We all want the good
because
friends.
And
you
seek
never
Jesus
know.
together.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Because you never know when you're gonna need that person too. Like, you know, we have our, like I said, we have our close circle. We have like a few people that are very close to you, but those other ones, like, you still have to be equal, like loving and caring for them, celebrating them, because like I said, you never know what season you're going to be in when you're probably going to need that person you probably didn't build a relationship with that much, you know, at some point in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I could have easily like not celebrated them, and that could have deteriorated our relationship. And down the line, I probably would have needed them, you know, for a certain part of my life. You know?
Yeah.
So it's so
That's
key.
good, man. That's
you know?
good. So I kind of have some questions, man, because I always like seeing your outlook on things. So from the times of like playing sports until, you know, transitioning out of sports into, you know, like having your adult friendships and then building your faith, like what has been the hardest transition going from each stage of your life? Because you built friendships with all these people legitimately from sports to like being out of sports and having friendships in the world and then having friendships in church. So like, what does that look like for you?
Well, the ones in sports, I guess like you want me to tell me like each like
Yeah, because they're all like they could still be your friends, but they're different people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess before I got saved, like, you know, being in sports, like I had what I got drawn to was like loyalty, people like, you know, common bond, you know,
Nice.
like we're both like hard workers, you know, grinders. We want to hold each other accountable, like go out there and get it. And I was seeking people that, you know, were better skilled than me so I can learn from them and grow my game as well. So those were like in the sports area, that's the people I was drawn to. You know what I mean? And then just transitioning into like after sports and going into, you know, adulthood and just like culture, living in the world, people that just wanted to look, I'm just gonna say, people that wanted to party all the time, you know what I mean? Like live a life, like sleep with a lot of women, because that's what I saw. You know what I mean? The music I was listening to. You know what I mean? I thought that's what culture was. Like, go out, you know what I mean, get some phone numbers, drink, go on the weekends, just party.
Right.
And then, you know, go to your job throughout the week. You know what I mean? See how see how many girls you are with. But in my heart, though, honestly, in my heart, I never liked that life. You know, I just felt like that's what I needed to be, because that's what everybody was following.
Yeah,
that's what the movies would portray. That's what the songs would be saying. You know what I mean? Like, you're not a man if you ain't, you know, bodying all these women. You know what I mean? You're not a man if you know, you don't all jacked up. You know what I mean? Look good, or you know what I mean? It's all about your image. And then now going into you know, my faith, you know, being saved, like I'm looking for people that's led by the Spirit. I'm looking for people that's, you know, hungry for God. I'm looking for people that have better gifts than me. Like, you know, like I said, you know, Papa Bear, young, older, you know, wiser, has a lot of wisdom. I see that he has like, you know, kids. He has a great, you know what I mean, marriage, and I want to learn from that. You know, you entrepreneurial mindset. You know, you have a great marriage too. You have kids. I want to learn how to run a business one day. But you're both led by the Spirit. You know what I mean? Like, people have like gifts that I'm like, that I know they're hungry. They're led by the Spirit. And I'm drawn, like we have a common bond, like you know,
going in the same direction.
Going in the same direction.
Man,
so
that's so good.
That's so good.
So that's I guess. You know,
man, you know what's cool about like about how you saying like you were kind of going with the culture at one point, like you were kind of going along with the drinking and hooking up and all that. You said you still weren't satisfied, and it's interesting because whenever you really think about that, you had eternity built into you. Like, God put a mechanism inside of you that said, "Son, this ain't it." I had the same feeling. That's why it made me smile to know that, you know,
it got
this
to
isn't
a point,
it.
Like,
there's more.
It was a few years ago, like back, I don't know, 2022. You know, as I was like really like saying like, man, I don't want this culture. Like, I hate going out. Like, I got to a point where I'm out, you know, in the club, and like you see the same old people. It's the same old thing. And I'm like
smells.
sitting here, same smells, same drink in the hand. You know what I mean? Doing the same thing. And I'm looking at, and I just told myself, like, what am I doing here?
$14 drinks, $20 drinks. Jeez.
But I'm saying, like, what am I doing here? And I just knew this, like, I'm tired of this. Like, I never wanted to be like that anyways, but it was just culture that was driving you, and you just felt like lost if you weren't like, or just like
that's so
little. And so I completely like let go of all those friends that I was going out with. Like, I was slowly starting, and I think God was like working with me. Honestly, because 2023, like, I'm just gonna look testimony. You know, y'all gonna hear it, but 2023, I got my car repossessed. Right, started a new job into the private aviation industry, and I was like, I was like, man, I got a bike. Right, it was downtown, so every day, 2023, I rode a bike. To work, to the gym, and back home.
Wow.
But I told myself, and I wasn't really strong in my faith at all. I always believed in God all my life. I just told myself, like, you know what? I'm not gonna fret. I'm not gonna cry about this. I'm not gonna be sad. God's gonna do something. You know what I mean? I told myself that all 2023, cool. And then towards the end, like, things started like improving. Like, I started like selling a lot in my job. I started making good money. I started changing my life. I started not really hanging out with those people that were going to the club and stuff like that. Every now and then, obviously I did that because I haven't been like fully saved.
Right.
But right towards the end of 2023 is like, so when I met my fiance, and I started settling down, and she kind of like led me to God, like to like take that final step into the church and be like, you know what, I'm doing this full time.
That's cool.
So towards the end of 2023 is I went to the Potter House, and this New Year's Eve, they're having this celebration. I don't know. It was so weird. I felt like God was just like working inside of me. Like, this is where I need to be. Like, wow. I'm not the one. I never had my hands up. Like, I had my hands up. I was dancing. I had the praise feet going.
I didn't even know you went to Potter's house.
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't.
Wow.
It was
just but that's still cool though. I didn't know that.
So after that, I was like, you know what? I'm finding the church. You know what I mean? I'm serving, and I'm committing my life to you without even knowing that I was actually. You know what I mean? And I did that. Went to the church I'm at now. Got into onto the team to start serving, but I still didn't have a car, right? And then I joined the Connect group, and I was telling myself, man, how am I gonna do this? Like, go to a Connect group, you know what I mean? And then I don't even have a car. Right. And then, you know what? Let me just try to find a car, like, see if I can get one. Yeah, got a car, boom. I don't know.
That's cool.
Then
I love
ever since
that.
then I haven't lived back. Got saved 2024. Committed my life to Jesus Christ, and I haven't looked back. And look what I have now. Like, I have a community that I always wanted, the friend group. I have family, I have mentors, I have peers. And now I'm on this podcast doing this, spreading the gospel. It's like, God is so good. Cool. You know what I mean?
Good stuff, man.
So, I mean, you got a mini testimony, but hopefully that, y'all, whoever's watching this, y'all felt that and y'all can relate. But, I just felt like I need to share that.
I want to give like a very subversive shout out to my friend I was telling you about before the podcast started. I have a friend that lives in LA, and he kind of was texting me about, just tell me about the podcast, the prior episode. And he was like, man, I'm religious, I have faith inspired by Jesus, but I'm not really a Christian, right? And it just makes me smile because, like, at least you have some sort of belief in something. That's usually where it starts. Like, whenever you had lost your car and you weren't a Christian, so to speak, you knew of Jesus but didn't know him. Yeah. You just said, God is going to help me.
Yeah.
So I want to give a shout out to you, man. If you're listening, I hope you're listening to this, because whenever you told me that, I was happy for you, man. So
even an orphan knows he has a father.
Right, an orphan knows he has a father, but has a longing.
Yeah. But key though, that I couldn't be here where I'm at today without that circle of friends that I built. You know what I mean? Like, we're not. God didn't put us on this earth to do it alone. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to have that community, the people that can hold you accountable. No yes men. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a friend in your friend group that just gives you opinions, is not led by the Spirit, you got to cut them off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Don't tell me what I want to hear. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Be led by the Spirit. You know what I mean? Be obedient to God. If God is telling you to correct me, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But for those of y'all who are watching, who hear SP talking about the Spirit, this and that, really, when we circle back to choosing your friends, you know, like having a friend, then choosing your friend, Jesus is the best friend that we can all have, right? In Psalms 144, 1-2, David says, "Praise the Lord who is my rock. He trains my hands for war and gives my fingers skill for battle. He is my loving ally and my fortress, my tower of safety, my rescuer. He is my shield, and I take refuge in him. He makes the nations submit to me." I kind of want that kind of friend.
Right.
If you don't know him, just ask, "Hey, can you reveal yourself to me? We want you to know him. Hey, he's our best friend." But we do have humanly friends. I think our humanly friends are kind of a reflection of like our eternal desires, right? So, you know, we're supposed to love God by being obedient to his commandments, but also we have a longing to be around people. So we have to love our neighbors. We have to love humanity.
Exactly.
Humanity,
Two most important
all different shades. Say that again, SP?
Two most important commandments, like you said, like love your neighbor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And love
Yeah.
God with all your heart and soul.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
What you got, Papa Bear? Hey, man, I feel like
I
this
don't know
is
if Papa
soaking
Bear
it in.
liked what I was saying or not. He was just sitting there.
No,
I'm playing.
no,
He's
it's
soaking
good. It's
it
all
in.
good. It's all good. Everything's good. Because when essentially when you're before you come to Christ, there's two common dividers of who you hang out with. It's your common bond. It's always your common bond of who you hang out with. But what separates you usually, it's your goals. And sometimes it's like your desire to grow. Usually it's professionally, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So what divides you from you start off and you have friends, and then you usually leave in the world. You leave those friends because you have ambitions that they don't. So sometimes you got to find the same friends that have the same
Right.
ambitions, and then also you tend to find friends that have the same bond or the same desires. You're seeking the same thing.
Yeah.
Whether it's we both are married with young children. We hang out in that area,
That's
right?
true. Yeah. Different layers.
Yeah.
But the greatest equalizer is Jesus Christ. When you're a believer and you have friends that has God as the foundation, you can have friends of multiple walks, different ambitions, different careers, CEOs with the janitor that come together and have that common bond and can actually grow with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
You cannot find that in the world.
Man, I'm telling you.
You're not going to find a CEO hanging out with the janitor or a VP of somewhere or an athlete hanging out with the counselor. You see what I mean?
Right.
In
right.
the world, it doesn't exist. And if it does, it's rare.
Well, and I was going to say, bring it down to what we are. We're three different guys. Same beliefs, different perspectives.
Way different.
Right.
Completely different, right?
Yeah.
But see, Jesus is the best equalizer.
Yeah.
We're all on the same plateau here because
Yeah.
we have Jesus as our common bond. And that's kind of like our ultimate goal when we speak with everybody and we send this message out. Is that if you find Jesus and make Jesus your common bond and the foundation of your friendship, you're able to accomplish and do things that you never even expected.
Man, you're getting me all revved up now.
But
yeah.
but just real quick, like my history was I had nothing but friends of pleasure. Nothing but pleasure.
Yes,
and
man.
And even the ones that I wanted to move to friends of utility, I quickly found out I can be there for them, but sometimes they're not there for me.
It wasn't reciprocal.
Right.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I never had a lot of friends. I had a lot of acquaintances.
Right.
Acquaintances, yeah.
But friends, true friends, I was very close on who I let in.
Yeah.
And I always, it's not godly, and I don't recommend it. I used to say, everybody pays cash. I trust Jesus, and everybody else pays cash.
I've heard you say that before. Hey, there's no Dutch in his circles.
But I've always had this ability that once I know, I could have known you for 30 years. And once I know and I come to that discernment that you're not good for me, 30 seconds flat, I'm out.
Out of there.
I'm out.
Man.
I'm out of there.
Right there, yeah.
And it's not necessarily a good thing. I'm not out here saying do this. I have the ability to just walk away.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that.
I have the ability. But then again, once you're in my inner circle, I'm there for life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always tell my guys, once you know that I have your back, you'll never have to stop and look back, see if I'm still standing.
And I actually want to double down on what Papa Bear is saying and tell you guys a personal story. So Papa Bear gave a lot of time to one guy in particular. He was kind of like a protege, bro. I mean, in terms of stature, I mean, everything about him was just so similar. And, you know, whenever you started mentoring him, you tried to show him like, hey man, like you didn't have a father figure. I'll kind of try to fill that role for you. And he even called him dad at one point, like a lot of people do. And even after he disappeared, you still have that longing for that friendship.
Yeah.
As a father, but also as a friend. And it's interesting when we parallel like that longing, you know, that eternal longing for friendships. It's like, man, Jesus has everything we need, but he was still willing as our friend to wash our feet.
Yeah.
And for those of you who have these friends that try to trample all over you, make everything about competition, the kingdom of God is upside down, first of all. The first will be last, and the last will be first. So if you think that there's any kind of competition going on, you need to first put yourself in the servant's position, because that's how you get elevated.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to honor that person that's in delegated authority. And that's a really hard pill to swallow whenever you know that someone is better than you.
And that's what
People want to say, oh, we're all equals. That is not true.
That was a really good episode, the one about honor. So if you haven't watched it, go.
Oh,
look
you got to
for
go.
it. You got to look for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, if y'all like this content, like, click, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon to be notified of when we release new content. Also, if you have any thoughts, leave some comments, because we like to see what you have to say. You know, we're here for you. We want to see you grow. So let's grow.
Amen.
Peace.
Peace.